Hi there. My name is Kareem Tapsh, and I'm the co-founder and co-director of O Cinema. Thank you for joining us tonight. As always, we're so thrilled to be partnering with Oolite Arts, our dear friends on the art film series. And this one's a little different because this is specifically tied into the Cinematic Arts residency, which is hoping to reimagine filmmaking, feature-length filmmaking in the city of Miami by creating opportunities for filmmakers to make their first micro-budget feature. You've heard a little bit about that in the info session earlier today, and you might hear some questions related to that in our Q&A. I'm particularly delighted about showing this film, having shared this film with you all tonight, Bloody Nose, Empty Pockets. I'll tell you a couple of reasons why. One is because Bill and Turner Ross are some of the most exciting filmmakers making films in the United States. I think it was Eric Cohn at IndieWire called them a dynamic body of work built around the unadulating moods of American society, some of the most exciting filmmaking in America of recent years. And I couldn't agree more. Oh, Cinema has a relationship with the Ross Brothers films in that early on we showed Chapatulas, a film about a neighborhood in New Orleans. And we've also shown Contemporary Color, a wonderful documentary, performance documentary really, about a event at Madison Square Garden organized by David Byrne celebrating Color Guard. Obviously, many of you may have seen the new Spike Lee film on David Byrne's Broadway show. I always say this is a good companion piece to watch it because it's both two different pieces, but both captures raw, exciting live performances in ways that many other films don't get to. But aside from that, for me personally, it's really exciting because I think Bill and Turner are great guys and great filmmakers. When I'm not co-director of O Cinema, I'm a documentary filmmaker myself, and most recently my film Mucho Mucho Amor, which I co-directed with Christina Costantini, premiered at the Sundance Film Festival, as did Bill and Turner's film Bloody Nose, Empty Pockets. I had a chance to see it at the True False Film Festival in Columbia, Missouri, and was just blown away. It is the kind of film that makes you fascinated and angry, and you either love or hate the subjects. But one thing is for sure, it leaves you walking out of the theater or at the end of a Vimeo link having felt something. And I think that that's what really is a cornerstone of Bill and Turner's work. So I'm going to turn it over now to the Cinematic Arts Residence Manager, Danielle Bender. She's going to moderate the conversation with Bill and Turner Ross. And of course, we are going to keep on bringing you more films in the art film series. So you could find out by subscribing to O Cinema's email list on our website, o-cinema.org, and at the Oolite website. And thank you so much. Enjoy the film. I'll turn it over to Danielle, Bill, and Turner Ross.
Thanks, Kareem. Appreciate it. Welcome, everyone, tonight. We have our Q&A with the directors, Bill and Turner Ross. And for everyone that's watching, please feel free to message us in the chat and tell us where you're tuning in from, or if you feel so inclined, please let us know what your favorite local bar is. So hello again, Bill and Turner. So I think they're, oh, we're unmuted. There we go.
Hi.
And then let me just change my view so I can see y'all better. Okay, perfect. Can you see me?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. I'm super excited to have you guys on tonight. And obviously, I know where you guys are, but I'm sure our audience is curious. Where are you right now?
We are in a very chilly New Orleans, so
A rare cold night, and we're in the bar under Bill's house.
Yeah.
yeah, we built a bar in our basement during quarantine, so we'd have somewhere to hang out that felt like you weren't at home.
We all need a place to go, you know.
Oh, I wanted to say to Kareem real quick, I haven't worn this coat since Sundance, but I got a Mucho Mucho More button on here. So
I'm sure he'll appreciate that. Kareem, are you there? Can you see it? I'm sure. Yes.
We are fans.
Showing mucho, mucho more to you. So how is it being in a bar that has no people in it other than yourselves?
Well, it's amazing. We don't worry about COVID, and we have really cheap drinks and good company. And you know, it's open at all hours. So
Speaking of drinks, what are y'all having tonight?
having some Guinness. Cheers to you.
Cheers.
Cheers. I'm having a sour beer.
Ooh, we love a sour
Yeah,
beer.
same.
It's called Sequench Ale.
Oh yeah. That's a
Yes,
good one.
yes, I've had that.
I think they have that down at the theater that we go to here in our neighborhood.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I'm sure a lot of people are really curious about what the driving force was behind making a film in a bar. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's an idea that we've sort of kicked around, had in our back pocket for about 10 years. But it was, we've had a long history with being in bars. Like when we were little kids, like our uncle would babysit us and take us to his bar and like sit us at the end of the bar, and we would just be these two little kids chilling while watching this incredible movie
They've
being
been
played out around
bars
us.
have been a fixture in our lives throughout. They've been a resource for us. It's an escape. It's also a place of information. And oftentimes, when we're out in the world and working, it's a great place to stop in and get the lay of the land. And at the moment that we made it, we really we were sort of sad, together to think about the loss of discourse and the ability to have different opinions, but be able to say share a beer. And it seemed like the right time for us to finally to delve into this space and bring together a cross section of society and just see what kind of conversations we might have with each other.
Yeah, amazing. And that is a lot of what I took from the film is conversation, community care, people interacting with each other and really like sharing their deep-rooted emotions with each other over a drink. So I thought it was really, really beautiful, and just I loved it. And obviously, I mean, for people that just watched, there might be people tuning in that watched it a while ago. Bloody Nose Empty Pockets is a film about patrons and staff enjoying their last night in a Las Vegas bar before it shuts down. The film's been referred to as a documentary, a hybrid film, constructed reality. What do you guys think about it? Can you tell me a little bit more about what we just watched?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a movie. I think that part's correct. Yeah. But when Turner and I have been doing this a very long time, since we were little kids, and we never once have gone to each other, even when we were 8-10 years old. We never went to each other and be like, I have an idea for a fictional film or a documentary. It's always just like, there's this image I'm wrestling with, this idea that I'm wrestling with, and I got to get it out of my system. And so it's whatever it takes to get that image, those images out of your head. That's what we do. So sometimes that is on one end of the spectrum. Sometimes it's in the middle. Sometimes it's over on the other side. But it's, but people like to put stuff in boxes, and that's fine. I understand that. But it's.
We're making non-binary films in a binary system, and fortunately, we get to be a part.
But not on purpose. We're not trying to be difficult.
We get to be a part of that ladder system, which we really appreciate and love because we become a part of a conversation. But we work without a system. At the beginning, we have the liberty to make films the way that we want, these really handmade movies, and so we can start with an idea and then say what is the best way to arrive at that.
Yeah, and I mean, bouncing off of that, you start the film with the line from the Declaration of Independence: "We hold these truths to be self-evident," which is kind of telling about the film itself. If you want to interpret it that way, I'm sure there's myriad ways you can interpret it. The way I interpreted it was that throughout the film, we're seeing an America in decay. So you see a small business closing down, people arguing about generational issues, cities outgrowing themselves. I guess Bruce kind of had a premonition that Trump would be impeached. Why was it important?
Well, he didn't predict the second one, though. That would have really been something.
He was close.
Yeah, he was close. So.
This close. But yeah. Why is it important to include all of this?
Well, that's a great read, and we hope that we make films that are open to interpretation based on the experience that you're coming from, just like our lives are, and just like people who sit down at a bar are coming from different worlds, but may still share their life stories with each other. And we wanted to not only be able to paint a portrait of these types of places and be accurate to that, to the nuances of these shared spaces, especially these alcohol emporiums that people have been enjoying and writing about since since before Shakespeare's time. So we wanted to do that, but we also wanted to speak to our time, and we wanted to make sure that we were bringing people together who could speak to that, and so that we could get a sense of, where are we as Americans, as America? Who are we? And it's a lot of people in that moment were asking each other those kind of existential questions, and we've certainly arrived at a future as people are watching this film where that has become more entrenched in our lives. Who are we? What is an American? What is a patriotic person? What is our place here? What are these myths that we tell each other? What are the stories that we tell each other? And so, we wanted to begin that way. It's a declaration of independence, and it's also an understanding that the truths that are within the film are truths to these people in one way or another, whether there's artifice or there's not.
Yeah, because when it comes down to it, it is a movie about people in a bar of the last night of it closing, but whether the bar is in Las Vegas or not, does that matter? It's still, the emotion's still there. And you started to touch upon how important it was to have these different viewpoints. There's so many distinct personalities in this film. I'm just kind of curious how you found the people that are in the film that we just watched, and what made these specific people perfect for this night out.
Just like with any film that we've made, it all starts off with, you put up the who you're hoping to find. You don't know who it is, but you put up your set of characters, and then you go out into the world and you try to find that person that's going to fill that particular idea. And so with this one, we knew a few. It's like if we're going to make a bar movie, we've met some folks along the way that if you're going to make a bar movie, they have to be in it. So
and there are certain lead characters in a bar, how bar dynamics work. The guy who sits at the end, the person who comes in the middle of the afternoon, the late night folk, the people who are just coming out of curiosity. So, we think about archetypes and think about why things like Cheers work. What's happening there. The Iceman Cometh. Every one of those people is an individual archetype defining a point of view. And so for us, it was, define the space, but also try to, be representative and find a cross section of people. And so like Bill said, we set out with a set list of, maybe a dozen marquee sort of two-dimensional, maquette people, placeholders. And when you go out, you find these 3-4 dimensional people who, inhabit those spaces and then feed that character and make it something more. Bruce, is on paper, he may have represented something, but who he is in the world and all the depth that he brings is very, very real. And so, even though he came, as whatever version of himself he wanted to be, the authenticity of those feelings is very real. And that's the kind of stuff that we don't want to control. That's why, casting for us is a really important process.
And Bruce, we found in a bar. We did a lot of bar casting. We found Bruce probably around 2 a.m. At a bar, and I think we were packing up, and he came over and he said, "Well, what's this all about?" So we told him, and he said, "Well, I'll probably need to be in that."
I think I know something about that.
Yeah.
About 24-hour
okay.
bars. I said, okay, Bruce. All right, man. Yeah. And no, he's incredible. He's incredible.
Honestly, Bruce, I think was I was texting my colleague that I think Bruce was probably my favorite of all the people in this cast. There's something just like so tender about him, and it was hard for me to believe that a lot of this cast didn't actually know each other for decades. Like it felt like they all come to that bar every day. They know each other. I mean, the part where Bruce and I think her name's Pam, where Pam's comforting him and wipes away his tear, like it's incredible to me how much this film is obviously about despair, but also about community care and people looking out for each other in these really hard moments. So
They mean it when they're speaking to each other like that. We tried to create an environment that was conducive to those types of interactions. Some of them are buoyant, and there's certainly comedy in the film, but some of those are deep things that are shared between people who understand those types of worlds, and there's real humanism and reality to those things. And I saw a question in your, I guess Bill's got your pop-up thing here.
I should close this. He gets distracted very easily.
I get distracted very easily.
Or should we be looking at this?
no, it's okay. I got it. But if you want to answer,
okay. He gets distracted if I have like music on while we're working.
But I thought it kind of tied into that, because the point of including us in the film, the camera in the film, was to give a nod to the fact that we are there, because this is a construction. We did bring these people together. Certainly there's a layer of artifice for important reasons. But we wanted to make sure that people understood that the people there understood that we were there. We're all just in the room together. There are 2 extra bar patrons throughout that entire experience who are there and interacting and relating to the people just in the ways in which they are relating to each other. We're listeners, and we wanted to make sure that people knew that this wasn't some sort of, let's watch the people thing. This was us with them in that space and trying to be available to whatever experience they presented.
Yeah, it's not a zoo. It's like
we are with and not above.
Yeah, it's like we're not shooting at, we're shooting with, and anybody can come to us at any time, and a lot of times we'll go to them. This was an 18-hour shoot, so sometimes we would stop and put down the camera for 5 minutes, check in with somebody, have a cigarette, and just make sure everybody was doing all right.
Because also we are members of that world. For better or worse, we've done our research and have empathy for everyone who played a part in that, and the type of people who seek out those spaces.
So if you've done your part, what would you say if somebody else was the filmmaker? What archetype are you?
Good question.
Oh, interesting.
I haven't gotten that one. Well, we would, we would probably be the.
It depends which night, I guess.
That's true. Depends on what. Yeah,
I mean, I might be the philosopher.
Could be.
Could be the jester.
Yeah. Could be the late night fun crew.
You just never know.
I think could be the shoulder to cry on. Could be the ear to.
Our bearing in our constitution is one thing, but I think we all have elements of all of
those. And it depends on the bar. It depends on who's in the bar. It depends on what's on the jukebox.
It really does depend on the bar, I would say.
It does.
I mean, Bill is usually the guy who goes into a bar and immediately heads for the jukebox after getting the lay of the land and tries to win the crowd. I think for myself, I usually go into a space and sit and observe for a while until the world comes to me. And then I usually end up making really deep, bizarre relationships.
Yeah, I want it to be clear. I don't go immediately to the jukebox. I need to feel the place out and make sure it's okay that I go to the jukebox.
Feeling it out.
I don't ever take over a place. That is rude.
That's not what I'm saying. That's getting the lay of the land.
I don't think that's rude. Some people have horrible taste in music, and it's okay to take over the jukebox. At one of our local bars, they have this jukebox machine where you can pay to skip people's songs.
Yes.
Song coming up, you can just skip it. So depending on how horrible the music taste is, I think it's totally fine to skip everyone's song.
Yeah.
And to pick 20 songs in a row, but that is very bad bar etiquette.
Yes.
Very bad.
Yes.
Do you guys keep in touch with any of the cast? I feel weird calling them cast. What do you think of them as? Friends?
I mean, they are, for all intents and purposes, they are the cast, but they are also, the participants. They are also, I mean, they're humans. They're people. They're people who agreed to go on this adventure with us, and we were all complicit in the making of this. And I don't know.
But yeah, with any film, we usually become very, very close with everybody that we shoot with, and a lot of we're still very tight with a lot of folks from just about every film,
because it's an intense experience. It's a passage of time and life.
And we like to create experiences that everyone feels ownership in, and we all go on a ride together, and that can be, pretty wild. So,
it's also really complicated to, participate in something like that and then see your image and sort of a portrayal of yourself. And so, yeah, I mean, we try to be available to talk it out and participate and hopefully forge relationships through that.
How did everyone feel? This is totally something I just thought of right now, but how did everyone feel about the way they were portrayed? Were they happy?
Everybody has a different story. Michael, who is the actor in the film, is an actor and has a really complex relationship with his experience within it. He's proud of his work, but he did such good work that he appears to be a failed actor down on his luck.
People just read the film as like that's who he is.
And Bruce, who's so endearing and so earnest and sincere, sees it as a comedy. He says, "Man, I'm fucking hilarious," and he loves it. It's everybody has a different perspective of their experience, but most everyone has interacted with it and sort of continued to engage. Some people have chosen their privacy.
Got it. How long did it take you guys to make this film?
Well, the 3 years. I mean, we were
but off and on.
We were trying to make the film for about 7 years, and then we.
For the filming, how long did it take you to film it?
The filming, we pulled the whole thing together in 2 months. The actual physical filming in the bar was a series of days, which the primary shoot, which the armature of the film is an 18-hour unbroken 2-camera, unbroken scene. It went from like 4 PM until like 7 AM. And there were some things that abutted that to help sort of augment the space, but and then we did a whole shoot in Vegas. But really, yeah, I mean, it's a linear shoot.
And why 18 hours or that time frame versus going? I mean, I like the way it came out. I think it's perfect. But why that over filming the same bar every night for like 2 months?
Yeah. We wanted a continuity of experience. We wanted a linear logic to people's emotions and a linear logic to their experiences. And we wanted a consistent trajectory. So
it felt like once you lit the firecracker, you kind of had to just go on that ride.
Yeah. We prepared everybody and did a couple of preliminary shoots, but then we said, this is whatever happens here is what happens, and we'll reel from that and go on afterward. But this is what is going to happen. So I think everybody felt that, just like in the last night of a bar. Oh man, if your bar is closing down and you go there, you would say, God, this is the last night. I'm going to make it special. And that's kind of the way that we framed it for the people who participated, was this is the only time. And they brought that kind of energy, where you might have a heightened sense of euphoria or, deep darkness or, a want to celebrate or a want to commiserate. And it helped us to, especially with all those moving pieces. There are like 22 people who moved through that space. We needed to make sure that there was a continuity of experience. I mean, that was a decision early on, because to try to film something over and over and over again in a bar, especially in real time, I just think would have been a wild mess. And we contemplated it. But, for this, it was so acute, so specific, and wanted to be so lived in that we thought, by creating the most dynamic situation
I think
possible,
the emotions would have become.
We didn't want to dissipate the experience.
Yeah.
And you mentioned there's like 20 plus people in the bar at that time. Everyone's talking at the same time. People are moving around. People are drinking. A ton is going on at once. And from like a technical standpoint, how do you guys film all that and even know which things to gravitate towards and what important like conversations are happening?
We missed a lot. We had the bar completely mic'd, so there was mics up and down the bar at the tables, and we had lavs on folks. And so I think ultimately there's 14, 15, 16 tracks of audio. And in editing it, you could hear conversations where you're just like, fuck, we missed it. And you know,
But that said, our choreography as shooters was very strong. You know, we had walked through this day and all of its potential over and over and over and over again, so that, you know, every 15 minutes there was a sort of a check-in, you know, like, these are the things at this time of day that we have to find, and that, you know, that are implicit in the way the sun comes in the door, or in who is coming through the door, or, you know, the state of these people's day. And so, you know, for us, it was very much like, you know, some sort of cinema Super Bowl, where, like, we had prepared and prepared and prepared so that we could be completely available to whatever happened, you know, within the constraints of our own making.
Cinema Super Bowl reminds me of your last film that you were working on. It sounds like that, right? Where it's like a one night event, or not one night. It was over the course of several nights. No.
Yeah, it was 4 shows, but we took a lot of what we learned from that and used it here.
Yeah, I think it really shows. Does working this way present any challenges for y'all, or is this new?
Certainly, but it makes it very exciting, because you essentially only have one shot at it, and so you really it's really a heightened experience. It's a very physical experience that you just sort of go into the day, and, you know, there's nothing lackadaisical about it. You're just like, I have to be really, really good today, and it makes it fun. It makes it really, really fun.
We want to keep that kineticism and that active discovery as a part of our process. And so, yeah, by having something that has a finite window in which to occur, it makes it very energized.
And I noticed one of the things beyond like the community tenderness that I just really loved. One of the things that I really liked seeing is when they would leave the bar and go to other places, like go get something to eat at like a local diner or something. That was really beautiful. Were those intentional choices, or did people just naturally gravitate towards, I made this friend, we're going to get pie, or like at the end where I'm sorry, I forgot his name, but he goes to check on Pam at her hotel room.
Yeah.
Where you're seeing what happens when everyone scurries out of the bar at the end of the night.
Yeah. So the things that happened during the bar shoot, we made note of all that, like, people's exits, and then we flew people out to Vegas to get like all the exteriors and stuff, and so that we could, see how their days end, or, where they go when they leave and come back, like where Pete and Felix are, out running errands or whatever.
Because as part of each of these shoots, each one built on the next one. So we didn't know what their endings would be. We had an idea of what the trajectory might be, but when people chose to depart, where they went, with whom and how, was really up to them. And so once they walked out of that door, the next shoot became, okay, well, what happened then? And we'd follow that until we didn't have answers. And we did a lot of shooting in Vegas, which we were very enamored by, and very little of which ended up in the film.
Yeah, because the bar, for everyone watching, is actually in New Orleans, right?
True.
Terrytown.
Yeah. It's a set. I mean, it is a real bar, but for us, we needed this container. We needed basically this theatrical safe space where we weren't going into someone else's space and saying, here we are to observe you. We were creating a collective environment of which we all had equal ownership and authorship, so that it could be this sort of safe harbor for people who come from known spaces like these to have a common experience. And, for us, in a language of cinema, it's not a lie. If you want to argue about documentary, then it becomes something else, but it's just not how we think about it. We did location scouting and set dressing and casting, and we thought about all of those things in order to create a really dynamic container in which for these people to be very authentically human.
And I mean, it even makes me think of, I'm sure everyone's had a night like this where you wake up the next day and are like, oh no, what did I do last night? And I'm sure that for everyone, maybe not, this is a bad assumption, but for everyone that was at the bar that night, you're knowing that, like, hey, that's me. Like, no one is taking advantage of you being wasted out of your mind. And I mean, that the first time I watched this film, that was the first thing I thought about. And then the second thing, of course, that I thought about was like, how bad was everyone's hangover the next day?
Well, some of those people are pretty professional drinkers, so not so bad. But yeah, I mean, it involved a whole lot of trust, obviously,
Yeah.
to come together and do that. I believe in the end that we did well by everyone. Everyone knew in advance that this was the experience that we were all signing up for, and for what reasons, and that we didn't know where it would go. And, we weren't there to exploit anyone or to make anyone look a fool. We were there hopefully to get to something deeper about our collective experience and about our own individual ideas of participation in something like this.
Yeah, and I'm gonna go. We have a couple of audience questions rolling in, which if anyone has any other ones, please put them in the Q&A. But I know one of the things that Kareem touched upon is, and I had already told Bill a little bit about this. The organization I work with, Oolite Arts, just launched our cinematic arts residency. So what we do is we award one filmmaker $50,000 to make their first micro-budget feature, provide a studio space, and then give them access to a producer. And so I guess one of the things that I'm really curious about, because we curated a whole program of things relating to micro-budget feature films, and micro-budget can be really, really low, or it could be a little bit higher. But what would you say are the benefits of working on a micro-budget film versus a large budget project? Of course, working on a large budget project is nice because you have money, but what are the benefits of micro-budget?
Well, we got to see that we get to see that quite a bit. We gravitate between working on our stuff and friends' stuff who, are working for studios. And
that was also our origin story. We started off in LA working Hollywood jobs, and we decided we wanted to see if this was possible to make, like you say, micro-budget films, handmade movies. The two of us, can we relinquish all of this, crew and overhead, and just get down to what it is that we want to do? I think we made our first film for like $20,000.
Yeah, you just can't make movies like this with more money means more oversight, and you just can't make stuff like this with just a lot of cooks in the kitchen. So, we see our friends go through the headaches of that, and it's just really not something that we aspire to. We like to be able to call our own shots, and
we keep it low and slow, and try to keep it as simple as possible, working with the same people as often as possible. Very, very small crew, very, very small core of trusted people who are always a part of what we do, so that in the end, we can still have a conversation with each other that ends up as a movie.
A lot of times it'll take the fun out of it. If it can just be Turner and I, that's really fun. If it ends up becoming a job because, there's a lot of money involved, that's it.
It's not the same thing.
We've seen a lot of people just get their asses kicked, and it's, that's just not the way I want to go about it.
I think it changes the story too, because even I feel like I'm so conditioned to watching films that are made a certain way that even, again, on the first watch, I remember thinking like, oh man, Shay's kid something bad is about to happen. I was just bracing myself for something's going to happen. This is going to end in tragedy. And then I was like, oh wait, in real life, sometimes people do go and get wasted behind their parents' work, or like go steal beers from behind the bar, and nothing happens, and it's not a big deal. So it's almost like you're creating a really truthful situation, because sometimes nothing happens.
That's right. Yeah. I like one of the movies we saw this year that we really, really love is Lovers Rock. And you feel like there's a lot of storylines that could have, like, well, here we go. We're going to get a morality tale here. You can't do this because the result's going to be that. And that movie's great because it just doesn't do any of that stuff. It's like, no, this is just a night where people got together and partied, and like, some people are bringing different energies to it, but not everything has to be like, this happened, so this has to happen, so this has to happen.
It's just not the nature of our experience, and that's what we try to talk to a lot, is the things that really are affecting to us, and the stories that we have lived or we haven't lived and want to be a part of. And that's more interesting than explosions, I think.
Yeah, I think if it feels authentic, then it is authentic. You know, most of the time. I do have a couple of audience questions rolling in. So Dorian asked, he said, incredible film. Curious about what the inspiration was for the film and what film or filmmakers do the directors model themselves after?
Cool. Thank you, Dorian. Model after. Let's talk about the influences for this film.
Inspiration was life and so many lived experiences and places that we've known and loved and people that we've known and loved and the bar rooms throughout our lives and also you know, our uncle taking us to a bar to watch WWF when we were kids, and also my aunt taking me to see the Iceman Cometh on Broadway when I was 9 years old, and you know, these things just sticking with us. And then, you know, as far as influences, we always, you know, right now we're trying to prepare to do something new. It is always just a flood of influences, as much as we can consume and think about and dissect. And for this film, there were some pointed references, though.
Yeah,
I think it's pretty apparent in the aesthetic, or at least that's what we were trying to, you know, pay homage to, you know, throughout, with the references within the film, with the look and feel of the film, certain eras of film, especially, you know, 70s, you know, American films. And
yeah, we were watching Dusty and Sweets McGee a lot.
The Exiles.
Exiles was a big influence. On the Bowery, Fat City, Nashville is a
perpetual
reference. Well, yeah, well, I think those are probably the top 4 or 5 that we would go back
Agnes
to.
Varda. We were watching.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, we
Lions,
watched
Love, and Lies.
Yes, Lions, Love, and Lies by Agnes Varda.
Yeah, but there are things that we just keep going back to over and over and over again. We may watch films or talk about books or look at art over and over and over again in the process, and just keep saying, what do I see now that I've gone through this? What do I see now that we've had this thought? What can we really understand here? Because, you know, we are the result of the things that we consume throughout life, especially as artists, you know, and it's better to understand that than to do it subconsciously, I think.
Right. I have another question here, which is what % was scripted and what was ad-lib?
No script.
There are no words on page.
Yeah.
That is not to say there wasn't a framework, but it was not a framework that any of the participants were aware of. So all of our actors, all of our humans who participated were just aware of who they were, and basic impulses of why they were arriving, what this place meant to them, which we had had conversations in advance about who they were, who they felt they wanted to bring to this. We really talking about their life story and saying, you know, where are we coming from and where are we going? But really within the parameters of what we constructed, the comings, the goings, the space itself, the stimuli they were receiving, people were responding to that, and then eventually responding to each other, so that at a certain point in time, they began scripting their own narrative. And it was something that we simply followed or would gently guide. But it was never an action and cut. It was always meant to, we never wanted to break that magic. And so it was a, you know, no one else was allowed to come and go. Everyone that you see in that room was who was in that room, including Bill and I. And, you know, we wanted to give them trust and license so that they weren't waiting for direction from us, but so that they felt like they were themselves in the situation that they were in, and they would respond accordingly.
Right. I have a comment, not a question. Someone said, I'm not surprised the bar went under. Who paid for everyone's drinks? I didn't see any.
Well,
very observant.
If by the bar you mean us, yes. No, you know, the actual sad story is I spoke with the owner and proprietor just a couple of days ago. He was crying on the phone, and just you know, they obviously, like so many places in this year, are actually going through this, you know, and while we used that as a backdrop, as a set, and as a stand-in for so many places that we all know and love, it is actually succumbing to that right now. So it is quite possible that the 20s is actually closing in real life.
I hope not. I mean, it's hospitality is probably getting hit almost the hardest of all the other businesses. So,
Yeah.
Another person asked, in regards to the dialogue, how much? Oh, we already answered that. Okay, it's hard not to see America decline in this film with two veterans and a muted reaction to Trump's arrival. What can we do going forward so that we don't do as Michael did? Is step one getting out of the bar? Wink. That's from Matthew.
I think that's a great conversation starter, and one best served over a beer. You know, that's, you know, really, while there were creative impulses and sort of structural ideas that we had been thinking about for many years leading up to making this, the thing that really compelled us finally in a moment was just, it was a recent road trip, us or separately we had taken, and just realizing how much of a breakdown in communication there was, and just how much we had actually enjoyed understanding others and places by being able to share dialogue, space, a drink, a meal with somebody. And I think the breakdown of that is the worst part, you know, that we have different competing visions of America, and I think they're myriad, not just binary. And, you know, my hope is that we don't lose these kind of communal spaces, and that we do find the time to listen to each other and understand that oftentimes we're coming from a place of pain or misunderstanding. And, you know, I think we're all just looking for a place to hide and watch the time go by, as they say in the Misfits.
Well, I do have two more audience questions, and then I have a question, and then we're wrapping up. So last call for any questions if anyone has any. Adam says, incredibly moving film. There are a lot of physical tears in the film shed by several characters. The song Crying is sung. Sadness is very present, but it isn't treated with a sympathetic lens. How do you approach including sadness in your work with an elevated understanding of it?
That's a good question. I don't know that I have a great answer for it. It's a very gut thing. Even when you're shooting it and when you're cutting it.
That's a great question.
Yeah, it's just really yeah, your sort of, your compass is, you know, when you're shooting, it's like, is it okay that I'm here, you know? And if that's okay, you know, I can be part of that experience. I can share that experience. The tougher, and that's probably tougher because you're in the room all together. But then when you're cutting, you know, it's just so hard because you like that is a person on screen, revealing something about themselves, and it's really a tough call. And I think we've surrounded ourselves with enough good folks that there's a good barometer about things. I mean, that goes, you know, tears,
Titties.
Like, I was going to say tears to titties.
Yeah.
You know, that, but just, you know, you just, you want to take care, or at least we want to take care of people. We want to make sure that they're happy and considered when the thing is done. And so those are conversations in-house. And then if we can't figure that out in-house, then we'll reach out to you know, to whoever is on screen and have a conversation with them about their comfortable, you know,
because at the very least they are non-exposed actors, people who maybe haven't, you know, considered the repercussions of representation. And when you have such a moment, you know, something that's emotional or, you know, flagrant, you know, in what is being portrayed, what is it saying and what is it doing when you choose to share that image? And for someone like Pam, especially, Now I'll call Pam and say, well, you know, how you feel about that? I don't care. I don't care about any of that shit. You know, but the real thing is, including something like that is saying is a fully realized individual who wears her heart on her sleeve, who will love another and also, you know, and be tough and also give off her weakness and be very proud of who she is. And by excluding that, we lose a portion of what makes that person so incredible in the world. And, you
That's
know,
right.
that's Pam every day.
I have one audience comment. It's again not a question, but I think that you guys will really like this. Raghu says, I loved it. Just like my neighborhood in the south side of Chicago bar in the late 60s. I was a bartender there in my 20s, and half the people were newbie hippies tripping and drinking, and the other half the professional drinkers of our parents' generation looking on in amazement, but without judgment. Thanks so much.
Thank you. That's wonderful.
I have two more questions and then we're gonna wrap up. My boss is asking, what's your favorite drink?
Depends on the setting, depends on the company.
Usually whiskey and beer, though.
Yeah. I mean, you know,
without the brand.
pretty easy, easy. But yeah, it just depends on the scenario.
And
But
then
There's a drink for all seasons.
I have to say, for me personally, when going to a bar, I have a bad rap with friends because I, for too long, tried to make wine work at dive bars.
dicey.
Well, no, hold on though. So I will. So apparently your archetype is Felix, because the Einstein-looking fella. Because Felix, in our advance shooting with him, we sat down individually with everybody at the bar. We realized that the bar was not stocked with wine, and so we had to stock the bar with wine for Felix to participate. So
yes, I've found that most bars do not stock with wine, and then you get a glass of wine that's been opened for probably 10 years.
yeah,
and I want to die the next day just from one glass of wine. So.
Well, you know, it's much like those sour beers at that point. You got to just kind of appreciate.
That's why I switched to sour beer.
Yeah.
And I guess while we wrap up, I just wanted to ask you guys, because I know I'm missing all my neighborhood bars, and I'm missing being able to go out, and really looking forward to a time when hopefully it gets to be a little bit more normal. What bars do you think we should check out? What's your favorite bar that you've been to, since you guys are experienced bar hoppers?
Well, it depends where you are.
Yeah.
Well, if let's say your top 3, or you could whittle it down to your favorite bar, but what are the
world?
Jason says Montserrat.
Well, Lydia's treasure spot, but I mean,
treasure spot, Desert Storm, wherever Jason is the answer.
Yeah, wherever Jason is. Yeah, there are so many treasures in this world, and you know, I'm sure anybody who's tuned into this or has watched this film has an answer to that. And man, I think the places I want to go back to are not the places that I know and love. They're the places that I don't know and love yet.
That's right. A good answer.
Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you guys for joining us. And we really just appreciated hearing what you had to say. I know the filmmakers that are thinking about making their first micro budget are interested in what you have to say, but thank you for such a beautiful film, thoughtful, community oriented. And every time I watch it, I take something different away from it. So thank you so much for that. And I hope you all have.
Thank you, Danielle. I appreciate it.
Thank you all, and thank you for your support. And it's so cool that y'all are able to run something that seems to be thriving there. And you know, to any folks who are out there thinking about applying to that thing, you know, there ain't nothing to it but to do it.
Got to do it.
Well, if I come to New Orleans and your basement bar is still up and running, I would love to.
You are more than welcome.
More than welcome. Cheers, y'all. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thanks.